All right, so Emily Ray, course director here, just wanted to take a look at these portfolio websites that you guys recently submitted. I have them all pulled up here in different browser tabs, and I'm going to poke through them one by one and give each of you a little bit of directed attention on where to take your site to from here. So the expectation is that you fold this feedback in with your growing understanding of your portfolio site and what it needs to be by the time you graduate. So it should be a demonstration of your skills and abilities in a certain area that can help you get the kind of job or secure the kind of clients that you want. So first off, we're going to start with Tiffany. So, her name is up here, identifies the site, as well as the tagline that lets us know that she is into freelancing as a social media manager. The organization of your header, especially with this graphic here, pushes this information on your homepage down a little bit more, to the bottom of the page than it needs to go. I would maybe recommend removing this image that we see here and making your navigation fit up into that area. That's going to move this info a little bit higher on the page, and in doing so, it's giving that priority placement right there. So we've got a little hello message and then links to resume, work, and skills. Scrolling down, we do see some contact info down here, and as I hover over these icons in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, I can see that they are linking to other areas on the web where we can connect. A lot of times people forget to change the link from Wix sites to their own media, social media platforms, so good job with that. I'm going to just click on one here. It's opening up in a new browser window. I'm going to go ahead and give you a follow there. Kind of popping back over to the site, let's go next to resume. So here we have some selectable text. That's the first thing that I'm looking for, right? If it's selectable text, then that means that Google can index it, that you can show up in search engine results, rather than this just being a picture of your resume. So you've done a nice job of laying this out in a way that highlights your qualifications, your work experience, etc., and your education going down there. We're going to pop over to projects next. And from here, we're going to see some of your work. So scrolling down, you have quite a few things here. We're going to just take a look at this first one here. So church flyers, I like that you're giving it a title, and then you give me a little bit of a description, right? So flyers that you created for events, posted them to Facebook, distributed copies. This is great context to help me understand the full scope of the work that you're doing. So instead of just like showing me the flyer, in fact, you are telling me how it's used and how you're supporting this by handing it out both in person and on Facebook. And as I scroll down here, I can see a video that you created. Now, looking at this DVA final project, right? Like I know that that's for your DVA course, but that's just because I'm an instructor at Full Sail. You might want to think about giving this a meaningful title. So if it is about Michael Sandusky, maybe it should be something like Portrait of Michael Sandusky. Also, something for you to be thinking about is custom thumbnails. And a custom thumbnail is one that you design that has a pretty compelling look to it that would entice people to want to click on it there. Scrolling down, we've got your branding, logo, and tagline. So, this is a really pretty flower we have here, but like in this capacity, right? Like the flower is kind of taking precedence here. In this capacity, the words itself is getting cut off. So I encourage you to kind of reformulate this a bit. This looks like it's actually an image and not like a graphic. When you have time and when your skills are at the level to maybe try and recreate the look of this in Illustrator, because you're going to want that vector artwork anytime that you're creating a logo. So last but not least, we're going to jump to the contact page. So here, just a simple form, places where we can connect. You might want to include a call to action. Why should people contact you? Make sure that you're getting the kind of touch points that you want. Next up, we're going to take a look at, this was supposed to be a manual site, and I can tell that from the URL up here. But a lot of times, if you are not logged out of your site before you're copying and pasting the link to send it to someone else, it's going to take them to a login screen. So that's really just kind of a check, that you guys need to do. If you're in editing mode, kind of on the back side of things, go ahead and log out, then supply that link to folks. So Emmanuel, I'm expecting your site. Here we're going to take a look at Samantha's. So we've got your name up here and your logo. Media Specialist is on there, but it's really small. So that's something you're going to want to jump in the back side of Squarespace in your design settings and make sure that logo is bigger so that I can clearly read this. Because if I can't, then it doesn't function the way that you've intended it to. Kind of scrolling down, a little bit about me. We got this kind of fun picture here. You talk a little bit about the things you love, like photography and social media. One thing in this section, the content itself, it's great in the way it reads, but it's kind of scattered in its presentation. So here we have things sort of aligned to the left, things aligned to the right. Here we have a quote, right? And you're kind of setting this apart as a quote with your italics, but then you're going down here and using italics in this space too. So as a reader, I'm not really understanding your intention in applying these styles. Here I can go ahead and take a look at your photography portfolio, and these look like places to connect with you on social. Okay, so we have one thing to note is that this did not open in a new browser window, so now I'm having to hit the back button to go to your site. Talking about your services here, that you do product photography. It's awesome to see your sample work here, branding and things that you do. So this all looks great. I appreciate that you are contextualizing. It's something that I did not expect here is that, see, as I'm moving this image, that the words are going with it, right? So you do not want to put the type that you use on your website as an image because it cannot be indexed by search engines if it is just a collection of pixels in the shape of words. So if I can't copy and paste this text, then that means that Google can't read it. Kind of scrolling down here, we see a video that you created, Photography Lives Forever. What I'd like to see here is, give me the title of this piece, if it's Photography Lives Forever, a brief synopsis, the roles that you played in creating this video. If you did all of them, state specifically what you did. If I'm looking to hire you, that really lets me know the depth of your skill set, and then any camera equipment that you use or software that you use to edit it. All of that is great context for me to understand the scope of your skills, and if you have the talent or the know-how or the technical sophistication to do a job that maybe I'm considering you for. So that's just the context to help understand this finished content. So this is who you are. Where can I reach you? Just a simple contact form. I would encourage you to put a call to action on here. Who should be contacting you? Under Who Am I, you say that you offer these services, but there's nothing here that really kind of invites me into like engaging with you on projects. So maybe just put some language there to help more the business side of things. Last but not least, you've got these two questions here. So who am I? You're talking about yourself. And then where can I reach you? You're talking about like you're in the voice of your visitor. So here you're in your voice, who am I? And where can I reach you? This is the voice of your visitor. So the tense here, if you're speaking in first person or third person, they're kind of at odds with one another. So I would encourage you to rethink the way that you are labeling these navigation links. Next up, we are taking a look at Lakeisha's site. So when I first come to this site, Where Creativity Lives like jumps out at me, and then I kind of have to look like to see whose site it is. And I can see it's clear up here, but it's not prominent, meaning that my eyes don't immediately jump to this as an identifier. And so in English, when we're reading from left to right, the first place that my eyes are going to go on this site are to what's most like big and bold. Okay, that's here. Short of that, my eyes are going to go here and read this way. And so here I get the links, but I still haven't gotten to the identity yet. My recommendation would be to swap these, right? So put your name over here and make it a little bit bigger, make it stand out from your navigational links in terms of the size and the weight on the font that you use there. We've got kind of a mystery link over here, not sure what that's for yet. You say graphic design, print design, good design. So I can scroll down to view your portfolio. Here I'm looking at some of the work that you've done. So some cool flyers, and I'm kind of like advancing through this, but I want you to see that as I do it, this slideshow is kind of cutting off the work in its full capacity, so I'm only getting kind of like this little small window into what you do. I can appreciate that you're giving me the title of this, right? And I would appreciate if you kind of discuss the project a little bit more, like who did you create it for, why, what is, what can you tell me so I can understand more fully what I'm looking at. So I think you'll also notice that you have some quality differences between some of these images, right? So some of them are very clear, right? And then some of them are quite pixelated. I would encourage you to think about, how you can get higher quality versions of these. Like, so with this business card, I can't click on this to see it like in its full layout, and because of that, like, I don't have an appreciation for the design itself. So that's something that you're going to want to revisit. I'm going to pop really quickly back over to Sam's site, because the way that she lays them out here, right, the images are the things that she wants to show just on the page so we can see it in its entirety, and kind of scroll to see multiple things instead of waiting for it to come through on a slideshow, is a better way for you to introduce your work when people don't have to wait for it. So here is your About Me. This is a really nice picture, and you've got kind of this stacked linear layout, meaning like content on top of content on top of content. I encourage you guys to think about a more dynamic layout for your pages that would, maybe be like bringing this image, right, like over to the side, somewhere over here, so that it borders the text, right? Then I'm not having to scroll as much, because you have a lot of room over in this area and this area here too, so that like I can see your image while I'm reading that text. So under designs, here the portfolio is loading in. So here we're seeing the projects a bit more, in their full form, which is great. We saw them cycling through on that slideshow, but here, you do get a better idea of what each of these looks like. So on this slideshow, I can click through and see them, but here they're missing the title and, again, a description to help me kind of understand what it is that you created and why. Right, so these are all really nice, but see, I could see the full design of this here, but even there, that gets cut off in this space. So, like, it's not as great of a presentation of your work if it gets cut off, because if I don't click on this, then I think, oh well, she designed it, and it's not even fitting in the frame, right? And so that's an assumption. Like, you don't want to assume that someone is poking through every little part of your site to try and figure it all out. We've got this comments tab here. Not sure, what this is meant for ultimately, if it's supposed to be a contact page or just like for feedback or comments. I would put more like a directive text here, or, instructions to say, contact me if you want to hire me, or contact me if you want to collaborate. Whatever it is that you want, go ahead and spell that out so people will know, why they should be getting in touch. So here we are looking at Shane's site. Question is, what's your preference? I'm going to go with this side over here. It's kind of loading in, and I see now that I can switch to the dark layout if I have a different preference there. So kind of fun, right? Like, you get to decide how you want to view the site. We have the social media links here. They are in fact active. I'm going to go ahead, and I always like to follow you guys, and so I can keep in touch and see where your lives and creativity are headed. Let's see, did we have one here? I didn't see it. Okay. So back over to Shane's site. Design your visual identity. Let's go home. So nothing. Nothing's happening here. So this must be the home page, right? So first things first, like if I go back to the beginning page here, I want to point out that if I'm coming straight to this URL and they're asking me what my preference is. So now I'm going to pick one. That's one click, right? And So after one click, I still haven't seen any of your content yet, right? So there have been 2 pages where you've had my attention, but you still haven't shown me any of your work yet. And so like if you are a visual designer, I would encourage you to jump more immediately into showcasing your skills and abilities. So that like just in case someone isn't going to be poking around, that you are able to show them. So again, if I'm just going down this line, I haven't seen any of your visual, if we go back to this page, your visual identity yet. So this is a great, it's a dense paragraph. There's a lot of great info here about you. And, you know, it'd be nice to maybe include an image here and break up this dense text, right? So it's all very important, but in, you know, in an online space, people don't tend to read as much as they do skim. And if you want to break this up into smaller paragraphs with kind of subheadings or subsections, that would facilitate more of that quick sort of scanning behavior that people are known for when interacting with web content. So under portfolio, okay, so here comes in the visual content. So we've got these videos here. Logo and vector designs. We've got your 2D, 3D modeling, print designs, and so it's all coming in. You've got a lot of really great work, but I've really had to dig to get it. So a couple thoughts of what we see here on this page. It looks like you've taken care to pull thumbnails or like, you know, do something here to make sure that this looks the way you want it to look on the page. But let's just assume that I don't have a lot of time to poke through these one by one. A title, a description of the video, sort of a full detailing of what you did on the video, and if it's everything, say all the roles that you've played, whether it was, you know, the director or the camera operator or the editor, all of that. You know, when you tell me that you did everything for a video, it gives me a better idea of the scope of your skill set. And then any camera equipment that you used or software that you used to edit it tells me more and more about your skill level. And let's just say I don't have a lot of time to watch all of these videos, but that title and description is going to give me the context or the info to make like a strategic choice on which one of these to watch to see if you're the guy I want to hire, right? And so similarly, like for these logos, you know, they're all really great designs. I'm going to go ahead and click on one to see what happens. It brings it up in like this light box. I get to see it in its larger format here. But how about a title of this piece and a description? You know, like if what your design concept was, like what you were going for with the design choices that you made. It is your ability to communicate your ideas that is going to make you even more valuable in this industry. And this is an opportunity for people to see a little bit of, like, get that insight into what it's like to work with you, and like not just that you can create these good looking designs, but the thoughtful designs as well. That's, you know, really what you want to be able to share. Last but not least, we're going to check out the contact page. It's a simple form. You know, so if this is a business, I would encourage a bit more of a call to action or a bit more information gathering as to, you know, how you might be able to help folks. I do see the question, what can we design for you today? You know, but it seems like there is an opportunity here to put a little bit more structure around, you know, the sort of the workflow or the intake process of new clients there. Overall, this is fantastic. A few tweaks, it's going to get it to you know, an even better place. Next up, we're going to take a look at Be Creative. So this is design, branding, and advertising. This is Kathy Sanchez's site. So creating what you imagine. We've got clear identity. We know what this company does. We've got this welcome message here. And then I'm scrolling down, and then I start to see some of the work, right? We get to see this highlight of projects. What I would recommend is this welcome message here. Like you are pushing the content that people would come to this site for, which is to know more about you and to see your projects further down on the page. I would, if I were you, bring your logo somewhere up here. I would put your navigation right here at the top. I would scrap this welcome message because it's a bit redundant in that Be Creative Digital Group, because we have that here. And then I would like sort of move this stuff up into more of a priority placement, right? Where I'm learning more about you immediately before I'm having to scroll. I can see your work before I'm having to start to scroll. So we get to see your location, a little bit of contact, a way to subscribe. This site is very full featured. So we've got the About page. So again, you can see that like this header is taking up probably, a good 33% of the visible space on the screen, right? And so then I'm having to scroll to get, this About Me information. We've got your mission and your goals here. So all of this looks great. One thing to note is that anytime you have a bunch of text, it's not just a title, you want to left align that text because it's easier to read. As we are reading and our eyes are wrapping to this new line, this jagged starting point is harder for people to follow than a consistent starting point. It fatigues the eye less. News and events. So this is going to take me to what looks like a blog. So just a great place for you to share more of your work. And, I think that blogs are a great place to showcase new projects, things you're working on, things you're trying, things you want feedback on, anything you're doing in the community. It is one way to keep the search engine optimization on your site really high because it is new and fresh content all the time. And if you're a great writer, it's a way that you can showcase that ability as well. So clients, it looks like so satisfied clients, kind of letting us know who it is that you work for, and then you're showcasing I'm wondering here. So the question I would have is like you're showcasing your clients, but you don't say what you did for them, right? And so Visit Florida, you're letting me come here to this page, but okay, you worked with them, but did what? Right? And so I think that's some missing context to help me understand more so of the work that you're doing for all of these clients. I would definitely add that book online. So here, just services that you offer and ways that you can go ahead and get connected with that. So you've got the business process in place. Instead of having a contact page, you have a book online. I like that. You're thinking about how do you translate a site visitor into a new customer. So that's awesome. Just going to go here to FAQ, and it's going to drop it in. What's your design process? I love seeing this, right? This lets your clients know what it is like to work with you, and if they engage you in a project, what to expect. So that's awesome to see that you have added that there. Next up, we are going to take a look here at, this is Odyssey site. I was a bit confused when I first pulled this up because of this here, that it's so small, and I'm wondering if it's a logo, but that it wasn't, that it got saved as a full page size, because that's what that looks like, and that the template is kind of forcing this minuscule display of it. But this isn't working because you can't even see what it says, and then it kind of obscures the identity of the site. This is where, if the identity of the site is Mother May I, it should say it right here, and it doesn't need to repeat it here and here. So this is where you are kind of showcasing a little bit about what this company does. It looks like designing blogs that are customized, designs and formats for your site. So it looks like it must be about building websites. So here, about, hear it from me, right? So, but there's no introduction, right? There's no picture of you. There's no, my name is Odyssey. So we don't know who me is. We don't have any context because it's not said anywhere up here yet, right? So it's still sort of a mystery. These are some blog posts that you have. I'm going to go ahead and click on one, Fun Recipes for All Ages. This looks like placeholder content, obviously. You're just going to show us what the blog post would look like here. I think blogs are a great addition to the site for the reasons I mentioned before, to showcase your writing abilities and for search engine optimization. Subscribe, this would be to where we could sign up for a newsletter, and the contact here of how people can get in touch. This is like structurally, it's a place for content. Very little, of your stuff has been added here to help me make sense of what this is and what it is going to be for you, right? So I don't see any of the work. The blog posts are all still placeholder content. You talk about building sites and blogs for other people, but I don't see any of that yet. So certainly at this point, the opportunity is to add some clarity with that, like who you are as a business or a brand, the services that you're offering, and how, if I'm an interested potential client, how do we start this process of working together? Next up, we're going to take a look at Brittany's site here. So social media design and photography lets us know right off the bat. We've got these clear links that we can get in touch, or that we can check out for more info. Scrolling down, services and resume, I can download it here as a PDF. Always want to provide your resume as a PDF, never as a Word document, never as a JPEG or an image of any kind. And ways to get in touch, we've got your social media here. Hovering over it, I can see it's linking out to other locations. I'll give you a follow here on Instagram when you start posting content. And let's poke around. So this is the home page. I'm not sure that you need a home button because you could make this clicking on the logo the home button, and add more stuff right here to this page instead of making me kind of poke around to get to some of your work. So about. Okay, I hope you notice what happened there. Because this part never changed and I clicked on about, I didn't know that there was all this new content down here. So what you've effectively done is that you have made this your header and your navigation, okay? But when I'm jumping from page to page, I can't see that the information is actually changing. So I might just think your site is broken. So the recommendation for you, Brittany, is this is a cool logo, but maybe make it a little bit smaller, position it a little bit more up here, have your links right around here at the top, and bring this content, this stuff, right on up higher so that when I click to the other page, I can see that it has in fact changed to something else. So you've done a nice job, of breaking up your bio and your background into these different paragraphs. Makes it a bit more readable, and we've got an image of you right here, so we have like an identity. We're kind of seeing who you are and what it is that you're about. When I go back here to Shane's site, this is what I was saying, is that like you want to break it up, maybe add an image to personalize it a bit more so that it's a little bit clearer and easy to read here, like in this capacity. History, I'm going to go down here. I don't know, I didn't know what I was going to find here, right? History is a navigational link that was a question mark for me. It looks like, this is your work history, your educational history. I feel like this stuff probably would fit under the About page well. I don't know if it needs to be its own page. And then portfolio. So as I'm scrolling down, I can see some of your projects here. They're kind of like in this swirly carousel, and then different things that you've done. So some photography, got some portraits and whatnot. So you have a whole bunch of different kinds of work, which is great. I'm going to go ahead and see, I'm going to click on one of these, except I can't, right? Clicking on it only advances it. So I'd like to see these, be able to see them a bit larger, and just rather than these thumbnail sizes. If you could give me the ability to more closely examine the work, I think that your visitors would appreciate that. So here we have video portrait. This is going to take me to YouTube.
Hey, Miss Savannah Cotton.
Okay, so I paused it there for two things. One is that I didn't know this was going to take me somewhere else, and so as a user, it's a bit I'm gonna have to come back to your site now rather than sending me somewhere else. Can you embed that here in the page so I can just press play from the site that I meant to come to? Secondly, when I did go to YouTube, I saw that you have this as the name of your file, right? So we talked about this in another review. That is to say, give it a meaningful title. DVA Final Revision just is like the name of the project for school, right? But this project is about somebody else, and tell me more about it. Give me more information so I can understand what you're creating and why. I want to have an appreciation for your process and kind of what you went through, to get to the place where you got with it all. Photography is great. You have a lot of work, which is awesome. You might consider having different pages. Like if you continue to, have a diverse collection of work, whether it's videos, photography, graphic design, you might consider having different pages that showcase curated work. Meaning, as you get more and more, you want to pick just, let's say, the top 3 things that you want to show instead of everything that you've ever done. And then that way you're always showcasing your best work. This is a really wonderful start, and a few tweaks will just make this more of a usable experience for folks. So here we're taking a look at Brandon DeGroot's site, Portfolio Beats for Sale. You let us know right off the bat. We've got relevant imagery here, producer, audio engineer, video editor. So that's awesome. Scrolling down, services offered, music production, video editing. So not sure what the difference of these links are. Right? So it's a little bit redundant to go link to the same. So maybe just, choose one or the other. About, so a little bit about you. An image might be kind of nice here. Some of your beats kind of coming in. Here's ways that we can get in touch, which is awesome. And then contact me. So why should people contact you? I mean, you have things for sale. You do provide different services, right? So put a little bit more structure around the business part of this site. What does it mean to engage you in work? So I clicked portfolio. It's going to drop me here to music. It seems like it's kind of, it's loading in some SoundCloud stuff. So I like that you have all this on one site instead of sending me to SoundCloud for this. We've got LeBron's Next Chapter. So if you did this video, I need the title, a description of it, what you did, what all the roles that you played, what equipment you used, what editing software you used, all of that so I can understand, how deep your talent goes. And same thing for these designs, right? Give me more context to understand what it is that you created. So like we saw back here on Tina's site, she talked about on the projects, she talked about the church flyers and saying she created this for this reason and then did all of these things with the flyers. That lets me know more of her strategy. So can you share more about what your strategy is? Beats for Sale. Going to take me here to this page, and I can go in and buy all these beats. So I love that you have a way to make money from your talent. That's awesome. Simple contact. It's going to drop me back down to this form. Again, I want you to be thoughtful about who should contact you and why, and go ahead and state that there. You've got a lot of really great stuff here. It seems like this is, that this is a site that you can use for your business, and ultimately that is what this project, this exercise, this assignment is all about for each of you, is to figure out how can you create something that has value beyond being a student and that can help you get the kind of jobs or clients or money that you want when you're doing your creative work. So next up, we are taking a look at Lindsay's site here. So we have your name, and then we have a logo here up at the top, LCO. So I know that LCO stands for your name because I see it here, but wondering about, what is the brand? Is it your name or is it the initials? And so kind of just getting some clarity for you on moving forward. How do you, how will you identify yourself? Are you going to consistently use this logo without your name? Something for you to think about. As I'm scrolling down, I can see you do content creation, branding, and advertising, but I can see that up here as well. So we've got some redundancy. I would think about, you don't show us any of the content really that you're creating here. I'm making the assumption that this is you in the picture. So if this page is going to be about you, let me jump here to the about page. We are getting a little bit of an about message here, so that's awesome. Why not merge these two pages? Because this one doesn't really have any real information, right? It is kind of just a little bit of a welcome, but not really saying much about you and your work and not really showcasing that much about you and your work. If this is your site and it's about you, then it stands to reason that the homepage would have some about me information on it. So kind of as I'm scrolling down, it shows, these are the things that you do. These are your services. I might suggest that this in and of itself warrants its own page, right? So where you're talking about what it means to do collabs or online advertising or site design, and kind of wrapping this a little bit of a business process around this. So how can people engage you in that type of work? So your blog, so it says check out my blog, and then I'm clicking on it and it's taking me somewhere totally different. So my question would be, why are we somewhere different, like at this point? It looks like you got a lot of great content here. It's like really well designed. So what's the difference? Like, why are both of these things needed? Something for you to think about. I would encourage you to explore a way to merge these two things so you're not having multiple online, like an online presence in various places that you have to update. So like, how does it work if you only have one, right? So under portfolio, so here's what you provide. So these are the things. So no, I guess these are examples of those things, but they're super tiny. They look great. I would love to be able to click on one and see it more in its full layout. And like I said, a title, a description of the project. Talk to me a little bit about your concept or your design choices to help me understand the insight that went into what it is that you create. So I have an appreciation for it beyond like, oh, it looks pretty. I want to know how thoughtful it is too. Last but not least, let's jump to the contact page. So here, work with me, just a simple form. There's not a lot of content on this site. And so, I think at this point, maybe a scrolling one pager might be a better format, or it could just be a more thoughtful kind of integration into this awesome blog that you've got going over here. So give me a shout if you want to talk about like what that might look like. Next up, we're going to take a look at Wes's site. Let me make sure I didn't miss one. Okay, I didn't. All right, Wes, so you are a storyteller. We got it front and center here. I would maybe recommend making your name, your logo a little bit bigger. I'm not sure what this is, right? I'm not sure. It's kind of hiding over there in the corner. I'm not sure. Might just need to be repositioned so that it's where it's supposed to be. Is this supposed to be a logo? Does it hang out over here? And then what's the brand? Is it Great Minds Think Alike or is it Wes Clark? So that is giving me a little bit of confusion there. Scrolling down, I get to see this awesome like directing picture of you. And what I notice here on the homepage is that everything is just stacked, right? Like nav, banner, title, subtitle, paragraph. What would happen if we kind of made this more of like columns, right? Where like this image was over here and the text was kind of like bordering it on, this edge over here. So that what we were seeing is, is more of a dynamic layout with columns instead of just like a scroll design. Under About, it's going to bring up just kind of a bit of history, a filmmaker, kind of talking about your professional experience. So all of this looks good. You're sharing about your work and places that we can get in touch. And I always like to follow you guys, so go ahead and get that. So all of this looks great. Telling your backstory. There's a lot of empty space here, right? Like I would think about how could I move more of this content up on the page. Wix has already taken some of your real estate up here with their branding, right? So like I want to see more of your stuff right up here front and center. So under photography, we get some really nice shots here, kind of rolling in. And when I click on one, I get to see the larger view of it. That's what I was hoping for. Especially with photography, the thumbnails are great for scanning, and then these are wonderful for, or the Lightroom effect, the Lightbox effect is wonderful for seeing it in its full, big size. So here's your reel. It's loading in. I can play these videos. You've got a title, and then you give me more context. So this is what I like to see with these videos is custom thumbnails or thoughtful thumbnails, and a title to kind of let me know, like, if I choose this, what am I going to see? Okay, I'm going to check out this music video. So it's not a surprise. I like that you provide the context. So awards. So here are things that you've done. I'm pleased and proud of all you've been able to do. Thank you so much when you always sharing stuff on the We Are MCBS Facebook group. Love hearing about what you guys are up to so we can cheer you on and support you for sure. So congratulations with all of what you've done here. Love to see that. Press. Just ways that you're getting highlighted and in the news. So this is nice to be able to see that as well. Again, there's a lot of empty space up here, and like I'd love to see this stuff just moved up. Like, we've got this empty space. How can we put, like, I would use the word like prioritize this good content. Book online. All right, so what are we booking for here? Services, film services, consultation, screenwriting, story development. All right, so here we see a few things. I like that you have gone ahead and thought about the business side of this and how to monetize your creativity and your professional skill in that way, and that you've got structure on it. And then ways to get in touch. So, just your phone and these other places online where we can connect. You have no shortage of things to showcase, Wes. You're already doing all the stuff. It's clear. I love it when I see pictures of you guys doing your thing out there in the world. And just, this is what this looks like. This is what this looks like to work with Wes. So I appreciate those photos that you're including there. A few tweaks is just going to make this even more professional and then give it a little bit more of a friendly user experience. All right, so here we have Mally's Music Media Incorporated. So this, I believe, is Bruce's site. So we've got the soundboard, and then we've got this text on top of it, and it's white text, and it pops pretty good, but that background image is pretty busy behind it. So that's something you want to be really wary of, is when you're layering text over a pattern or a textured background. Is it making the text difficult to read? Because if it is, something needs to be done, because the text is the priority at this point, right? So if you're making this hard to read, I might just skip it. And if I'm going to skip it, why is it there in the first place? So something to think about. Scrolling down, here's your work. We talk about music, and then so we've got an intro and then some of your tunes here. This part is a little bit of a question mark. So now we see some design work, right? Looks like an infographic and maybe something you created for graphic design. But none of that is really contextualized, and by contextualized I mean explained, right? So if I were just to kind of read this up, at the top, you'd talk about being, doing audio work and then multimedia services, but everything about your site, Mally Music Media, and the images that you're showing, really sing with the musical part. So then it's kind of a bit of a curiosity to find this design stuff here, especially because there's nothing explaining it. Also, these social media icons down here being in black, they're really hard to see, so you might want to change that color. I really like this mixing board image, but as a background image, it just makes anything on top of it really hard to find. I would consider changing it. Under About here, so it's just a little bit of your backstory. You have a little bit of a drop shadow on that, and it just makes it look a little blurry. It gives it a little bit of dimension, but it also just makes it a little blurry. The black text on the white background is going to give you enough contrast, so I don't think you need that shadow. Last but not least, just some simple contacts, so how to get in touch. Just a little a link here that will open up an email, it seems. So just an invitation to send comments, questions, concerns, and a way to do so. I think the opportunity here with your site is to clarify, why there's the design stuff on it. If music is your focus, kind of elevating that. and providing more samples of that, and then more of an avenue of how people could engage in collaborations or projects with you. So overall, guys, these sites are awesome, but I do encourage you to make some changes to it now while it's fresh. We would like to see this continue to evolve. You're going to be in Portfolio again with me in Portfolio 6, and I'd like to see growth and development between this version of your site and the one that you're going to do for me in Portfolio 6. If you guys have any questions about this, give me a shout.